Up next, Rietveld is founder of the popular legal expertise website magontslag.nl and is CEO, head of R&D at Arbeidsmarktresearch at the University of Amsterdam. She has extensive experience in mapping legal knowledge and decisions in a methodological way. Rachel's area of specialization is automation of open standards and law. In upcoming session, Rachel will give you a clear insight of what legal tech is, what the possibilities are, what the limitations are, and how you can increase the level of efficiency in your daily work. Rachel Rietveld.
Hi everyone, welcome to the next video. I hope you enjoyed the previous ones, and now it's time to dive into legal tech. My name is Rachel, and I'm in the daily lead of Arbeidsmarktresearch, UvA BV, which is a private company related to the University of Amsterdam. With this company, we created magontslag.nl, a website where the justice seeker on employment labor law can find information, but also an estimation of their legal position. I'm also the one who drew this threatful but hopefully accurate cartoon that explains what we do. Namely, we ask questions, make the user answer them, present very clear reports on what their position is and what they can do, and also draft legal documents, not only in templates, but totally tailor-made. We make calculation tools as well, and we also do it for different fields of law, not only in the Netherlands, but also even in South Africa, for example. Enough about me, let's dive into this digitalization of law. And I first want to take you to where it all started, namely the revolutions, the technical revolutions. So from about 1800, steam was a new revolution, a new technology, followed up by electricity. And these two have in common that they both focused on rationalization, so standardization of labor tasks. It was only physical labor back then, so you can imagine that that was the reason why factories were developed and instituted, and everything was focused on optimization and efficiency. But later on, we got two new technical revolutions, industrial revolutions, I have to say, and they were the computer and the Internet of Things. In that fourth revolution, we're now at the moment. And the same process is repeated, but now it's not the physical labor that's being under attack, it's the cognitive labor. So still we try to rationalize, standardize and optimize labor, but then, well, mainly our own thoughts. And now the question arises, is that possible? And is it even possible within the legal field? Well, if we look at some reports, the answer must be yes for most things. For example, here you can see that the World Economic Forum predicted a high movement of machine work from human work. And also in a very recent report, they announced that machines and automation will eliminate 85 million jobs by 2025. And these are the demands that are expected to be growing. And if you look at all these tasks or professions, there are a lot of common things. So it's data, it's digital, it's software, science still, analyzing. So there is something to it, but don't worry, there will also be 97 million new jobs created. But what it really shows is that it's time to change. And I know the legal industry isn't that quick most of the times. I can say I have a legal background. I love being a legal scholar, but yeah, we're not that innovative. So it's time for that. And why would you? Well, like I showed, go with the trend. There are all these new kinds of services where you attract new people, new clients, but also you optimize your process. That's also the focus on standardization. So an increase of efficiency, reduce of cost, effective work, effective knowledge, reach more equal outcomes maybe within the processes, but also it's a way of training your people. So I think enough reasons, but let me state something first. There are some cons, of course. And I will be the last person that will ever say that we can totally replace humans, especially legal scholars, especially judges. There is still something within law that is more than just technique. It's intuition, and that's something AI, at least at this moment, can't do. It can interpret some emotions, etc., but I won't dive into that. But let's stay clear, we still need that human being. And also because the whole system, and also probably within your own company, is focused on the user. And the user wants to be heard. They want to have a human to talk to. They want to have that securement of privacy. And that guarantee of quality apparently is still put to humans. And also one other important thing, at the moment, if we talk about technology, especially within law, we have the thing called the black box. I'll name it later on, but the black box is something you put in something, then the computer does do something to it, and then something shows up, and we have no idea how we came from A to B, how we came from the chicken to the lion. So hopefully I can teach you a little more on what is happening within that box, and maybe, later on, also this afternoon, I will give you another presentation and we dive into that box. So how we can create that box ourselves without being yet black, but transparent. But now, legal tech. What is actually legal tech? It's a buzzword, that's for sure. But it's nothing more than just legal computer science. And that's a term that was used, decennia ago, and it still means the same. So it's just a hip version of legal computer science. And it means digitalization of legal procedures. But that word digitalization is also a very commonly used word. So what is digitalization? It's just work controlled by systems. And not maybe even controlled, but processed by systems. I think that's even a better explanation. But in a practical way, what does legal tech mean? And it's really hard to divide them into categories, but I decided to make a categorization based on their aim. So you can't really say the users or the behind line technique should be the reason for distinguishment, but the aim is kind of a good categorization, I think, although it's not totally clear still. So let's just run through them. And of course, sorry, I wanted to add, we're going to focus on the expert systems and machine learning. So the business process automation, probably interesting for everyone, because in every business we have a process automation or processes that can be automated. So what can legal tech do for those processes? Well, it can filter them. It will lead to less mistakes and it will make you exercise control. And it just takes over the tasks often done by non-legal departments or employees, but just to make processes clearer and not people having to ask other people constantly the same questions on how to do it, where to go to, who's in charge of, where do I need to file, I don't know. So it replaces the long instructions or the employees telling all these instructions, and it will send maybe not internally, but then externally, the user into the right direction. So also within the municipalities, for instance, there's a lot of things that can be automated just to make it easier for the clients. So let's call it follow the steps. Then one step further, we dive into the legal procedure. So it's still process automation, but then it has a legal focus. Well, same idea, it takes over the standard tasks, or it automatically does what needs to be done. So it's not only people telling other people what to do or where to go to, but maybe you as a manager or as an owner have told people to keep track of time. Those things, those very common but easy things, can be automated, of course. Therefore, or as a result, you can reduce the cost, you can apply Unity. The same goes for documents, for instance, that need to be signed or checked or whatsoever. If you explain what the process is, it will lead to better outcomes. But there are no legal checks. And I want to say this because this technique or this category also contains document automation. And document automation is, to me, very important, very useful, especially to reduce cost and to take away work that has been done constantly. But if you just have a system that makes you fill in the blanks, there is a lot of room for error. So, of course, it's better to come up with documents that you don't have to draft yourself. And it is done already. I mean, people take all documents and will replace some things. But if you trust it to technology, you must be aware that some arguments can't go together within one document. So this category I target as without legal checks, whilst the next category does have the legal checks. So I hope you feel that the documents generating automations are kind of in the middle. But like I said, it's also keeping track of time, action plans, etc. Then a third category. Like I said before, it's more focused on the legal processes and it contains legal checks. So what do they do? Well, I showed you before, the Mag Ontslag website, like we do. We filter law regulations, we make it easier, clearer, and in the end, we provide the user with information, or we even estimate their legal position. Again, we won't replace the judge, we won't give them any certainty on what the outcome will be, but of course, it is possible to estimate a legal position based on questions asked. That's something a lawyer does as well. You have to ask questions and then you can provide the user information. So yes, this category kind of takes over the jobs of lawyers or supporting lawyers. But don't be afraid yet, there will be work left. So how do we do it? I call it rule-based legal systems. And that rule-based, I will explain a little further later on. But like I said, you have the rules, you have the input of the users, the answers given, and then, it's based on knowledge and interpretation, and you can come up with a report or even letters. Then that fourth category, machine learning. The expert systems and machine learning are both a form of artificial intelligence. Although machine learning is more common known as being artificial intelligence than expert systems. So that's why I wrote expert systems and machine learning. But I divided them into different categories because they work in a totally different way. Because machine learning, and that also is some, for instance, neural networking, but it's a slightly different technique, but it's part of machine learning. It searches and predicts, and it's constantly looking for patterns within a lot of data. So it's data analyzing. The reason to do it is also to take over the job of lawyers and supporting lawyers, but a slightly different way. Before, with the expert systems, I used the term rule-based. Now, this is a case-based approach. So like I said, machine learning detects patterns into data, it clusters it, and then it may be predicting outcomes. But those outcomes are just statistically. They're not based on the law, on the rules. So the system can find patterns that might not be a legally correct pattern. but it will help you. So something we all are familiar with are the search engines. Once you start looking for something, it's the machine learning that will know, because it went through so many data, so much data, sorry, that if you search for A, then probably you'll be searching for B, where you also want to find result C. So within legal cases, jurisprudence, for instance, if you are looking for hammer, you also want to find stick when you're looking for violence. So that's the machine learning working. Like I said, rule-based, case-based, expert systems, machine learning. The biggest difference is really important to realize is the way they approach the whole work. So it's on the one side, it's the experts applying logic to law, so deducting the rules. On the other hand, it's the technique, so not a human expert, that finds the patterns. So it's human versus machine, of course. The methods, like I said, rule-based versus case-based, it's top-down, bottom-up. So with an expert, he will always start with the rule, the law. It can deduct rules, and then maybe the legislation is not entirely clear. Then it would look into regulation, and maybe later on, it will kind of use a case-based approach, namely, an expert can also dive into rulings of judges to find patterns. But still, it's the expert doing it. With machine learning, you, can steer a little as an expert to tell the rule, but still it's the machine finding those patterns, and that determines the outcome. So that's a totally different approach, both with their the benefits or limitations. In case of rule-based systems, expert systems, like I said, the interpretation is done by experts. We can categorize, maybe we know language, we know how to interpret language, but definitely a pitfall is that it has a high complexity. So if you want to create an expert system, providing the user with their legal position, and you take something that is too broad, you will get lost anyways. So if you start trying, please start with something simple. That might be easy, but it's probably big enough. It's time consuming, and we have a problem that law just contains inconsistencies, unfortunately, and hopefully that will change within the future. Case-based, on the other hand, has a big benefit, and that's that way more data can be interpreted. So if you as a human want to look into case law, it will take you months, not years, to read into everything, whilst machine learning can just do it all in a few minutes. So quicker results. On the other hand, and there is the black box I told you before, that is a big risk. So we have no idea what the pattern is that determines the outcome. Besides that, we need a lot of data, okay, but that can be solved in most cases. But be aware that new cases can't be predicted, because since there's no data, the machine can never think of its own to think of other possible options that might have not been decided into court, whilst an expert probably can. Or if he can't decide what the right outcome will be, at least he can see that there is a different option, and he can tell, well, we don't have that answer yet. So this was an overload of information, I'm sure. I'm really sorry for that. But main question, will legal tech cause the end of lawyers? I would say no, definitely not. We're looking for standard processes that can be standardized, and there are many, many things that can't be. But there are even more things probably that can. So there is a very important future of lawyers, but that needs more than focus on legal. We are looking for T-shaped lawyers, and I hope you want to become a T-shaped lawyer, or in your organizations you want to have a lot of T-shaped lawyers. And a T can contain a lot of things, and it doesn't need to be everything, but a legal professional should have some other skills based on data, design, process automation. And if you remember the jobs I showed you before that will increase, then you understand why we need those people. Thank you so much for listening. And if you have any questions, please send me an email. Otherwise, I hope to see you this afternoon. Thank you so much.